Hi everyone, Quiveen here from CIT's Blackrock Castle Observatory. In our last video we took a look at the 15 brightest stars that were visible in the northern hemisphere at about 9:45 at this time of the year. We're going to be continuing looking at the next 15 brightest, going all the way up to the 30th brightest star. One or two things I'd just like to repeat. We're only counting the stars that are visible in the northern hemisphere at 9:45, and if you'd like to get up to date on all of the videos we post, make sure to hit that subscribe button. And if you'd like to get the most up-to-date notifications, including when we go live on our live stream, make sure you click that little bell icon next to the subscribe button. So we've already looked at the 15th brightest star in the northern hemisphere, Alnath. We're now moving on to the 16th, which is right in the middle of Orion's belt. So we're here looking into the south-southwest, in between Sirius and Venus. Right in the middle of Orion is Alnilam. And Alnilam is the brightest star in Orion's belt. It's that middle star. This is our 16th brightest star in the sky. Alnitak is actually the 17th brightest star in the sky. So we will get back to Alnitak after we take a look into the Plough for our 16th brightest star. The Plough contains a number of the stars that are in the top 30 in the northern hemisphere. So we're going to be taking a look just almost in the middle of the Plough, where the handle of the Plough is just joining onto the body of the Plough. That is Alioth, and Alioth is our 17th brightest star that we're seeing in the northern hemisphere. So there's Alioth. Because the stars in the Plough are so bright, it's often easier to see them and then find the North Star, and that's one of the reasons the Plough is so useful. So there's Alioth, that's our 17th brightest star, and then turning back to Alnitak in the Orion's belt to be our 18th brightest star. So Alnitak is on the left hand side of Alnilam. It's just on the left side, the southern side of Orion. It's more under Betelgeuse rather than being above Rigel. Mintaka, the other star in Orion's belt, doesn't make it into the top 30 for our part of the sky. But we will be turning right back to the Plough for our 19th brightest star, Duphe. So Duphe is nice and high right at the very top of the Plough. It's the last star you'll pass if you're using the Plough to find the North Star. So there's Duphe right at the edge. So if you're using the Plough to find the North Star, you're going through those two stars. Duphe is the last one on your way to the North Star, so that is our 19th brightest star. Our 20th brightest star is one of my favourites, and it's because it's in one of my favourite constellations. So we're looking up over the northwest here. We're looking for the constellation of Perseus, and I mentioned Perseus in previous videos. So we're just above the northwest here, across from Venus, where we have this sort of double curve in the sky, almost like the fin of a shark, and right in the middle is Merfak. And Merfak is one of the nice bright stars. It's the brightest star in Perseus, and it's going to be right above the northwest, our 20th brightest star. The 21st brightest star that we see in the sky is quite tough to spot. It's just barely above the horizon. I'm including it because it is technically visible. It's actually slightly more visible if you go out a little bit earlier. We're looking down on a diagonal from Sirius. We're looking right above the horizon here at Wazen. So we're looking at it here in a gap between the trees. If you go out much later than 9:45, it's going to sink below those trees. If you go out earlier, it will be a little higher in the sky, but of course earlier in the evening the sky will be brighter, and that can make things more difficult. So there's Wazen, our 21st brightest star, right down in the corner. From here we're turning right back around to the Plough. As I said, it's got a good number of the bright stars in our sky. We're looking for the very last star in the handle, so opposite side of the Plough to Duphe. This is the last star you pass if you're using the handle of the Plough to find Arcturus. Right there is Alcade. Alcade is also a very useful star if you're trying to find the constellation of Canes Venatici. If you find Alcade, the next brightest star on your right is Cor Carolee in Canes Venatici, not one of our 30 brightest stars, and just in between Alkaid and the next brightest star is the Pinwheel Galaxy, and you can check that galaxy out in one of our previous videos. So Alkaid there, the 22nd brightest star we're seeing in the north tonight. The next star we're looking at has, I think, a fantastic name. So we're going to be looking very close to Capella, so you can start by finding Polaris, move across towards the west, that bright star is Capella, and Capella in the constellation of Auriga, it makes a shape almost like a pentagon. At the top of the pentagon, that point there is Menkalinnin, and Menkalinnin, it's one of the brighter stars in the sky. I think Menkalinnin, it's a tough name to say, but it's a great name. I really think it has a nice ring to it, and it is the top point of that pentagon shape, which is mainly Auriga. If you watched our previous video, that star there, and that, it is actually part of Taurus. So this pentagon is mainly made of Auriga with a little bit of Taurus down at the bottom. So there's Menkalinnin. That is our 23rd brightest star in the sky. The same way that Elnath is in Taurus, but quite far from the famous part of Taurus, our next brightest star, number 24, it's in the constellation of Gemini. The last time we looked at Gemini, we started at Procyon and we went up towards the west to get Pollux. For this bright star, we can start at Procyon and go directly to the west, directly to the right. This is the very, very bottom of the constellation of Gemini, very far away from the famous Pollux and Castor, but there's Alhana, and Alhana is number 4. It's our 24th brightest star. So it's just above Betelgeuse. If you were looking in between Pollux and Betelgeuse, it's right there in the middle, right across from Procyon. There is Alhena. Our next star is back down in Canis Major, and just like Wezen, it's very, very low. So this is star number 25, Mirza, and Mirza is lower than Sirius in the sky and further to the west. Wezen, on the other hand, is lower than Sirius and further to the south. So there's Wezen down there. We're looking at the other side of Canis Major to find Mirza. Mirza is just the 25th brightest star that we see in the north. We're now going to go to the 26th brightest star that we see in the sky. We're going to look straight into the south, high into the south, and just a little bit to the west of south. There is Alfred. Now, Alfred was featured in one of the Twitter videos that we posted this week. It's the brightest star in the constellation of Hydra, and really the only bright star in the constellation of Hydra. So Alfred means the solitary one, and the Al part is pretty much the like we'd have it in English. So you've probably noticed a lot of the stars we've looked at. We've got Alfard, Al-Natak, Alioth, Alkaid. They have that Al in them. That Al is very similar to the Al in algebra. In Arabic, it was the act of putting something together. Al-Jebra. But when we borrowed that word from Arabic, we just shoved it all together and turned it into algebra. It's the exact same thing with these names. We're after taking the particle al and gluing it onto the actual word. So in this case, Fard, Alfard, the name that we use today. After Alfard, it's directly in the south. We're looking directly into the north. Number 27, the 27th brightest star that we've got in the northern hemisphere. If you're counting the sun and the stars we see in the south, this is just the 49th brightest star. Polaris, the North Star. You can find it using the plough. It's one of the most famous stars in the sky. It's barely in the top 50 if you're counting all of the bright stars, and just barely in the top 30 even if you're only counting the stars in the northern hemisphere. So Polaris simply isn't that bright, but it is of course directly above the North Pole, which makes it very useful if you want to navigate, and that's why Polaris is so famous. We've got 3 more stars that we're going to get to quickly. Moving on to number 28, the 28th brightest star in the sky. We're looking back into that constellation of Leo. So coming straight up from the south, we'll have the bright star Regulus. And I've mentioned in previous videos the shape of Leo has this sickle shape, like a backwards question mark at the start. So above Regulus, not the next star, but the one after that, is Algeba. And Algeba is the second brightest star in the constellation of Leo, the 28th brightest star that we'll have in the sky tonight. Away from this, we're going yet again back into the plough. It's got a great number of very bright stars. We're going to be taking a look at Mizar. So Mizar is that middle star in the handle. It's a little bit fainter than Aliyat and Alkaid. This is our 29th brightest star. I'd really recommend getting outside and trying to find Mizar in the sky. If you've got very good eyesight, you'll see Alcor, and if you've got incredibly good eyesight, you'll see that third star in between them as well. So Mizar, the 29th brightest star we'll see in the sky tonight, right in the middle of the handle of the plough. Finally, moving on to the 30th brightest star that we'll see in the sky, we're going down into the constellation of Andromeda. The best way to find Andromeda is find the North Star using the plough or any other method, and then look for that W shape. We'll go from the North Star through the W shape of Cassiopeia and out the other side. Again, we're coming quite low to the horizon here, Merak. And Merak is the 30th brightest star that we'll see in the northern hemisphere at 9:45 tonight. If you were counting all of the stars in the sky, it's just the 56th brightest. So there's Merak, the 30th brightest star that we're going to see in the sky tonight. And between the past two videos, I do hope you've watched both of them, you'll be after finding the top 30 brightest stars visible at this time of the year. So I really hope you enjoyed this video. And if you did enjoy it a lot, comment down below what you would like to see next. Would you like to see some galaxies, some nebulae, the brightest stars that are visible in the south or in the morning? Let us know what you want to see, and I hope you'll join me next time for our next video.